All
Stephanie, take it
right.
away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk About It Stuff. I know it's been a minute, but life be lifing. We are going to catch up on everything that's going on. I have a special guest on here. Christy Wood is going to be on here. And of course, my co host is back. So y'all get used to seeing his face for a minute before he disappear on me again. We're gonna have Del Frey come up as well. So go ahead now, go get your tea, get your water, whatever, and let's get ready to get in these hot topics that we got because I want us to talk about the hate in America. Oh my goodness. It's so much hate going on. So we want to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Let's talk about this hate. So welcome back, Dale.
Hey, it's good to be back. Sorry about that. Every first Wednesday of the month, I have another obligation. So I'll be jumping back and forth a little bit. But yeah, it's good to be here. Tell me if my audio is not high enough. And I'm also looking forward to some good conversations today with also another good friend of mine, Christy Wood, who's also here as well. Christy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, hello, everybody. My name's Christy Wood. I live in Denton. I am an election judge and have been for 10 years. We're now going into the 11th year of me being an election judge. And I'm also helping Stephanie out on her campaign. And I do testify in front of the County Commissioner's Court concerning various topics, but the one that's most dear to my heart is about getting voting centers in Denton County for Election Day.
Absolutely. So, Stephanie, what do you want to talk about first? I know there's a lot going on.
Ooh, I had to go take my blood pressure pill. We got to get the room to a certain level. But let me tell you, if y'all have not liked or shared, let's talk about stuff. You have time now to go ahead and like, share. Let's talk about it because we have a lot of things that's going on. And of course, yes, I'm still going to be bringing on candidates, but we got to make sure that we can reach a lot of more people to start listening in to Let's Talk About It stuff. So, are y'all ready? Are y'all ready for this hot topic? Okay. So, the hate in America. There's a lot of hate going on in America. There's people that's hating folks for the color of their skin, what religion they are, what their sexual orientation is, their education. There's so much hate that's going on. And my question, America, is this: has it helped you with your affordability of life? Has your gas price gone down for showing hate towards others? Is your food bill going down? Because those people that you're hating are the ones that's probably taking care and making sure that you have the food on the shelf, making sure that they take care of your yard, making sure they take care of cleaning your home, making sure that they build your home, making sure they pray for you and you don't even know that you're being prayed for. They're having your back, right? And they're also serving and protecting you. So has the hate that you have, is it helping you? Who wants to jump in?
Ooh, I'd love to jump in, Stephanie.
Go
So,
for it.
yeah, I've noticed this too. It's the hatred that is being spewed across all of America is rampant, and I think it's because we have allowed it to become normalized. We see the hatred being spewed from the highest levels all the way down, and now it's permeating into almost every aspect of our lives. Even if you do something as innocuous as something I did a couple of days ago, I posted a picture of me and some friends on Facebook enjoying a good time at a fundraising event. Oh my goodness, you would not believe, or probably would believe, how many haters got onto my personal Facebook account just just because I happen to have posted a picture of me enjoying myself with my friends. So yeah, the hatred is out there. It's hatred against certain groups of people, and it can be almost arbitrary as to their definition of us versus them. So it's not us versus them. We are all human beings on this same planet. We have to live with one another. It should not be so full of hatred, because I don't want to live in a world of hate. I want to live in a world that's filled with joy and serenity. So I'm going to work for bringing joy and serenity, and I will not let the haters take away my own joy and serenity. And I will also uplift those who are being hated upon, because that is not right. We are better than this, America. We're better than this, Texans. We're better than this, Denton County. And I'm talking to everybody in Denton County. I'm not talking just to one group or another group. I'm talking about everybody. We all need to stop doing the hate. Don't spread the hatred. If you want to replace hatred, let's replace it with something more joyful and more absurd. I don't mind having absurdity, and I don't mind having laughter. So, and I also absolutely adore having honest, frank discussions. When you see something wrong, call it. If you see something right, celebrate it. That's my take.
Absolutely. Good on that. A really good speech there. I want to kind of plagiarize James Tallarico a little bit. He talks about how we don't want to really have left versus right, because it's not really about left versus right. It's more about top versus bottom. There's a lot of rich people in the world who control the algorithms, who control the media, and they want us fighting amongst ourselves so that we're distracted from the fact that our leadership is failing us in every single possible way. Our gas prices are up. The fact that we're in a war again in the Middle East again. The fact that our public schools are closing. The people in power right now, the current politicians, don't want us looking at that. They want us to be looking at something else. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to distract us by trying to get us to fight amongst ourselves. And so we see a lot of the Republican Party rhetoric. I've seen a lot of mailers come into my house. My wife once voted in a Republican primary, and so I get all sorts of mail from my state house representative, Jared Patterson. All of it, almost all of it, no longer about the border wall. It's all about Islamophobia. They want us to be angry at mosques and things like that. Because essentially the Republican Party has run out of ideas to run on. They can't run on healthcare anymore because they talked about how they were going to either repeal and replace Obamacare, but they bombed on that in the first Trump administration. They can't talk about the border wall anymore, or they can't talk about securing the border anymore because they're in power. So if they were to say that people are flooding our border, then that would be their own fault, right? Because they control every aspect of government. So this is their last resort. They don't really have anything else to run on other than just trying to spread Islamophobia and hate and try to get us to fight amongst ourselves. It's all the distraction. One of the best examples that I can prove to you about this is an influencer by the name of Kaylee Campbell. Kaylee Campbell was someone who was literally seeking to divide Frisco and literally said it out loud. She's like, I am going to divide Frisco. And she has all sorts of social media presence. Come to find out, if you look at the TEC records, the Texas Ethics Commission records, that's the area that us candidates send our campaign finance reports to. We found out that State House Representative Shelley Luther was actually paying Kaylee Campbell and has received over at least $14,000 that we know so far. And we can also follow the money trail. Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks are two West Texas billionaires who heavily invest their money into Texas politics. The main revenue source for State House Representative Shelley Luther is Tim Dunn and Ferris Wilks. And then she takes that money as a State House representative who is legitimately probably scared for her position right now because she is a State House representative and her party is not doing very well right now. Their party is failing us in every way. So she doesn't want us looking at the fact that our public schools are closing, the fact that she voted in the school voucher scam. She wants us distracted. So she pays individuals like Kaylee Campbell so that Kaylee Campbell doesn't need to have a regular old day job. She could just focus all of her time on dividing us up and getting us to fight amongst ourselves. That right there is where this all comes from. It's the politicians who fan the flames of division in order to try to protect their political grasp on power.
Mm. Wow, I got you. Wow, that is a mouthful. I was talking to Dell and Christy earlier, y'all, and I was telling them that I volunteered to do the Together of Texas or Texas Together and do their phone calls. And it calls all over the state of Texas asking people about getting out to go vote and what's affecting their household. And boy, let me tell you, I have heard it all from everyone from different backgrounds. And majority of the people that are saying that they're having an issue is the ones that this is what they're saying. If you're a black American getting pulled over by the police officer, getting pulled over by the police, people are afraid that will I make it out? Will I be okay? Or if you're brown, is ICE coming? Do I run? Because they might try to have ICE to come get me, especially since here in Denton County, the county commissioners all agree to for 287G to be passed. They agree to pay for this. They also are trying to agree about these laser gloves.
Mm-mm.
So the conversation that I have had, people are afraid. They're afraid. I have people so afraid to they're getting their renewal license tags early. If it's due in September, they're already trying to get it. If the state's saying the October, they're already getting it because they're afraid of the police. Now, we should not be afraid of the police. The police supposed to be, in those that do serve and protect, they are doing the right thing. They are making sure our communities are safe, and I back them 100%. But then you have this little 2% of the bad ones that's like a bad cancer cell that are doing the wrong thing, and the media is projecting them as this is what they're doing to harass the citizens. But then you have the good police officers that help people. You never hear the report about a police officer that's actually helping somebody that's on the side of the road, or if somebody's having a bad day and they just need somebody to talk to, and that police officer just starts talking to them. They never talk about that. I think and I can only speak for Denton County. We really don't have issues with our police department, but when they getting start getting involved in things that I feel like we shouldn't, then that's when it's going to change. I feel like, and it's my opinion, that we should not be having taser hand gloves. We should not be having these, what do you call these flock cameras. We shouldn't be having that. I feel like having flock cameras and having these fly away, what do you call those things, Dell?
The
You probably,
drones.
yes. When you're having these drones that's up in the cloud that are watching you, and if you're speeding, they're gonna send you a ticket. It's certain things I feel like we shouldn't have. I'm not for it because I feel like you're invading people's privacy, especially when you're trying to listen to people's phone calls. If you're on the phone, like if I'm on the phone talking to one of my sisters, I promise you, we're talking more than 30 seconds. They're gonna record you. I don't want my private conversation to be recorded. It's none of your business what I'm talking about. But then here we are with kids are being missing, which we had a child that was missing over in Hazlitt. We had one that was missing over in Denton. Are you looking for those kids? Are you using those resources the right way and go get after the criminals that are actually doing bad things? Are you going after the people that are driving while being drunk? Are you pulling those folks over? Stop harassing the ones that's trying to do the right thing. That's just my thought. People might hate me for saying that. I don't care. The truth is the truth. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Don't engage in something that's going to cause a bad effect to your community. Police officers need to do the right thing. When I was growing up, a police officer can talk to you. I know things have changed, but I really feel like if those boots was on the ground and actually talking to the community that they live in, that they serve, things could change. We don't need them policing us like we're prisoners. We don't need that. That's just my thought. Y'all go ahead.
Well, one of the things that concerns me was something I read in the Dallas Morning News either yesterday or even this morning, was how long that Dallas County has to keep all those records that the flock cameras are recording. They have them all that data for an entire year. That takes up storage space. That takes up resources. We already know that some of the data centers, the AI data centers and things like this, are gobbling up a dwindling supply of resources. So I am opposed to the flock cameras for a couple of different reasons. One of them is what you mentioned, Stephanie. It's for the rights of an individual to their own autonomy. And yes, I don't want my government listening into my private conversations, and I don't want them tracking my vehicle as I drive around the county and to other places. I just don't want it. I didn't ask for it. I don't know where the data is going. I don't know who has access to the data. I don't know how long the data is being stored, and I know I cannot have access to my own data. All of these are concerning from a First Amendment rights point of view, but also from an environmental standpoint of just having to have the sheer amount of data storage required to do these things is probably not good. And so I am opposed to them from that standpoint as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm right there with you. I would probably clarify that I don't necessarily have a problem with the physical cameras themselves per se. After all, we do already have traffic cameras. The problem really lies with who has access to that information. Are they trained and are they audited? For example, we've seen several headlines in the news where there's some individuals who have used the flock cameras, who have access to it, to stalk their ex-girlfriends or stalk their wives and things like that. So, when it comes to a responsible like FBI or CIA, I see that, relatively speaking, it feels as if the FBI and CIA are almost more structured than whoever has access to these flock cameras. After all, we do see files get released sometimes, like some of the Epstein files, for example. So you can see that while records don't necessarily always get released, there are records there within the FBI and CIA. I'm not saying I'm any fan of the FBI or CIA, and they've definitely made their mistakes in the past, but at least they have documentation, and at least sometimes someone can actually get access to that through the Freedom of Information Act, right? Now, is there any internal auditing right now with the people who have access to these flock cameras? I'm not seeing any such thing. So I grow very concerned about that. It's the who has access to the information, and also what really irks me is a story from a friend of a friend. He apparently was flagged as having a suspicious vehicle, and that's not because a police officer thought it was suspicious. AI thought it was suspicious. And look, AI can make mistakes. And one of the problems with AI when it makes mistakes is that when it makes a mistake, well, that's based upon the wiring of that model, the AI model. And so every mistake that it does make, unless the model is updated, it's highly likely to make that mistake again, which is why this friend of mine was actually pulled over for having a suspicious vehicle more than twice. It's because when it happens once, if it's a mistake, AI is probably going to make that mistake again unless someone actually went into the system, flagged it as no, this is not suspicious, retrain the model, right? So, because the model only knows what it knows at that point, and unless it's further trained, it's not going to get better. So, mistakes like that will get repeated, and it's particularly an issue when we are saying, all right, so who's guiding our police officers? Are you telling me an AI is guiding our police officers? So that really bothers me. And I also I do kind of I want to push back to a little bit when we say that Denton County police officers are doing a good job. They are, but there's also an impossible situation they're pushed into. I don't think that our county jail is well staffed. I hear all sorts of horror stories of people who actually work there who, are underpaid and work long hours. And one of the really heartbreaking stories that we know of in Denton County is the story of Heath Aaron Vanderventer, 27-year-old, was having a mental health crisis. Grandma didn't know what to do, so grandma called 911. The solution is they threw him in jail. A couple of months later, he was found dead, and the medical examiner officially ruled that his cause of death was literally dehydration. A 27-year-old with no prior physical health conditions died of dehydration in our Denton County jail. So now grandma is suing our county, which is going to increase our property taxes even more, right? But if you see a 27-year-old die of dehydration, it's one of those things where you say, well, what of other elderly people? And more importantly, is getting arrested, if being thrown in jail. Are you trying to tell me that that could possibly be a death sentence? It's really heartbreaking. So between these flock cameras, flagging suspicious vehicles, and guiding police officers, and sometimes making a mistake, between that and not having an audit of those who have access to the flock cameras, and to the concept that when an arrest is made, it could potentially mean the death of somebody, these are really grave concerns that we have here, particularly here in Denton County.
You know what, Dale? I agree with you on that because my question is this: with them getting all this information, where are they putting it? Can somebody hack it? Like, for instance, these new 2027 vehicles that'll be coming out, that if a person, like, I'll tell you for an example, sometimes I can work 8 to 12 hours and I'm tired because I have to have my nap at a certain time so I can help keep it moving, right? And if I don't get that nap, I'm tired. I'm so exhausted. So if I get into this 2027 truck, and I'm not going to say the name of the, y'all do your research on that, but there's a vehicle that they're getting ready to push out, and it's a truck. And if the AI in that truck sense that you can't drive, it won't start. You could be in the middle of traffic and there's a kill switch that's on there that will stop you. So first of all, that's a safety issue. And if there is a problem, my thing is, will that truck be able to take control of the wheel and park that vehicle in a safe space? But this is something that they want to implement, which I think is the wrong thing to do. Yes, I agree that we need to stop people who are drinking and driving, but to put a kill switch on there to where that vehicle can stop in the middle of traffic, especially if you're on 635 or LBJ somewhere and you're tired because you done had a long week and you're just tired and the car stops in the middle of traffic, you're going to cause several other vehicles to wind up having an accident. So I feel like this particular company, y'all need to rethink building that and make it safe. Just because the government said they want to do something like that doesn't mean that you need to do it. That's just
Yeah,
my say.
yeah. Saying that it's going to help protect against drunk driving is really no excuse. Uh, I know in many states, I have to reconfirm if Texas is one of them, but if you get hit once with a DUI, then that person is supposed to have an interlock device installed in their vehicle for, I
Mm.
forget how long, at least 1 year. And I know that I've heard stories how a lot of people who get those interlock devices, a lot of them tend to be repeat offenders anyways, and they tend to get the interlock like renewed, or eventually they just flat out lose their license. But yeah, there's mitigations for that already, and it comes down to an aspect of, do we lose the power of free will and control of our own vehicle? Yeah, I'll definitely pass it back to y'all. But the drinking and driving is no excuse. We already have systems in place to mitigate those.
So these topics are related because we both touched on the same thing, which is, does the machine make the decision or does the human make the decision? If
Yeah.
we arbitrarily or involuntarily give up our rights to control our own destinies to anybody or anything, whether it be an AI making a decision on whether to send out an arrest warrant for you based upon a certain criteria, or upon this, control of a vehicle not resting in the vehicle owner's hands, the vehicle operator's hands. It is a basic fundamental question, which, believe it or not, of course, the science fiction writers tackled many years ago. But we are living the reality now. Humanity is on the cusp of turning over the control of our own lives to the machine. And if we don't stop and reevaluate how we use machines, we'll end up with the machines using us. So these are great examples of this.
Yeah, I totally agree with y'all on that. That was a great topic. So
Excuse
we're
me.
gonna move on. So y'all, if people out there, just ask yourself this question: hating other people, is it helping you? Because it's gonna come a time that we're gonna all, no matter where you came from, how you look, who you love, what religion you are, we're gonna all have to come together as one and work together for whatever the cause may be. It's gonna come a time that we're gonna have to be on one accord. We got billion and trillionaire people that basically hate working class folks. Why do you think that they're doing what they're doing? And if you get rid of the people that you think that you hate so much, are you going to be able to do their job that they do? I can tell you right now, no. We're going to have shortages. We're going to have things in the grocery stores that's going to be expiring because people don't come to work. People are not going to be able to perform like they should. I'm just being real. We got to do a better job in loving our neighbors, doing the right thing, and try to help someone, no matter where they came from. Because at the end of the day, and it's coming very soon, we are all going to have to put down that hate and learn to work together. Because I'm going to ask you this question: what would Jesus do? All
Yeah,
right, y'all.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a really good question on what would Jesus do. I'm seeing a lot. I've mentioned previously upon how the Republicans in charge right now, those who are in power, want to get us divided and fighting amongst ourselves. Another problem area here too is the so-called influencers. There are individuals who will go to city councils just to rile things up. They'll call themselves a true Christian. They'll call themselves a true patriot. But really, what they're doing is they're trying to produce content for social media so that they can get clicks, they can get more attention. And the more that these influencers get attention and get clicks, they can eventually start selling advertisements saying like, oh, here's a link for like a discount on Amazon. Use this link. And what it does is actually gives them affiliation and some money on the side. Or sometimes, like I said, in the case of Kaylee Campbell, she gets paid by a state house representative who enjoys her trying to divide up our communities. We've been seeing this problem particularly in Frisco and more recently in McKinney. There's another influencer by the name of Jake Lang, the January 6th rioter, who was pardoned by Donald Trump. He lives in Florida, by the way, but he came all the way to Frisco City Council just to rile people up. Another guy named Larry Brock. Larry Brock is also a January 6th rioter, also known as the zip tie guy, because he was photographed having zip ties on his person when he was at the Capitol on January 6th. And he actually moved here to run for office. Now, he lost his Republican primary against Jared Patterson, but he is now having the Larry Brock Show on Twitter, where he gets people to call in, and it's basically, again, just trying to get clicks, and he advertises and things like that too. It's a money-making strategy for some people. And we have seen all sorts of people, particularly when you ask what would Jesus do. From what I understand, Jesus Christ, his teachings were about love and compassion. He was one who said, let he who has not sinned cast the first stone. He was literally crucified, and his last words were, forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they do. Like, that is a man of compassion and love. But that's not what we're seeing in these city councils from these people who call themselves true Christians. I was at the McKinney City Council, and it was a long, long night. They had the city council started at 6:30, and everyone had only 2 minutes to speak, and there were still people speaking right after midnight. And lots of people were claiming that they would talk about God, they would talk about Jesus, and they would condemn the mosque that was being approved to be built in the area. And it was very visibly Islamophobic, and there was a lot of hatred that was spewed there. I went and I spoke too. I spoke in support of the MIA, the Muslim Islamic Association, or the McKinney Islamic Association, and I was booed, and I was booed hard. Jerry Masuka, the county chair, he's like the Delia Parker Mims of Collin County. He was there as well. He spoke and he was booed, and it was heartbreaking to see just the level of hate. Because I tell you, if you want to scream, Christ is king and to love God and all that, the next message out of your mouth should not be to be condemning and hating your neighbors, even if they are Muslim or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever other religion they may be. This country was literally founded on the concept of freedom of religion. So I really like that question there of what would Jesus do, because Jesus would not be doing this. He would not be doing what we see in our city councils right now.
Let me jump in a little bit. One of the things that really, really bothers me about this is is a definition of what is a Christian, and the very narrow focus that the far right evangelical Christian base is trying to define the word Christian to only meet their narrow definition of what a Christian is. I personally am a United Methodist. I do not cotton on to this evangelical narrow definition of Christian filled with hatred and only one way, or else you're going to burn in hell. It's not the Christ that I know. So to try to take over a religion definition of Christian, meaning to follow Christ, that's what it means. My name is Christy, a lover of Christ. I think it's very disingenuous, and I think it does not follow the precepts of the separation of church and state. In fact, we know for a fact that there is a movement to tightly integrate their definition of church with the government of the United States. So if you do not meet their definition of what they think a Christian is, then you are automatically the enemy. So this is going to include everybody that does not meet a very narrow definition of Christian, one of which I do not agree with personally. So, yeah, I take offense at that term. I take offense at people leaving out the fact that majority of Americans do not profess a faith in any religion. So we are not a religious democracy in any shape of or form. We are and have been founded upon the principle of not having religion mixed in with your state, with your government. So, yeah, I find that very disingenuous. I find it when it works best. Government works best when it is divorced from religion, and so that people can choose to worship or not based upon, hey, this is, you're fighting for the same thing. This is a little bit of capitalism in here on trying to sell your religion to different people. That's fine. Do not force your definition of religion onto somebody else. I find that abhorrent, and I find it against democracy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I forgot to bring this up, but as we talk about the definition of Christianity, I just can't help but to think my mind immediately goes to the current campaign of Ken Paxton and James Tallarico, because Ken Paxton is trying to claim that James Tallarico is not a real Christian. And James Tallarico, he's a very nice guy. And I tell you, not that it's a competition per se. I don't feel like it's fair to compete and say who is like any more or less Christian. I think that's the wrong argument or wrong avenue to go down. But it's just so ironic to see someone judge another and be like, that person's not a real Christian. And I think that kind of goes into what you're talking about, of a narrow definition, right? And
Right.
I absolutely do agree with you. This is something I said, and I got booed real hard when I said this. I said it in the city council in front of everyone. I said that this is not a Christian nation. This is a nation founded by deists who believe in the freedom of religion. And they did not like me saying that, because the reason I opened with that line is because I heard multiple times, multiple other people claim that this is a Christian nation. And if you understood the fact that, it wasn't, it was poor people who came here on boats to flee from religious persecution from King George III. The other thing I got booed on real hard is when I said that the First Amendment, in the first sentence of the First Amendment, is what establishes separation of church and state. And I said the reason that's important is because that came before the freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is in the First Amendment, but that's the second sentence. But first sentence before freedom of speech was separation of church and state, the Establishment Clause. That means our founding fathers prioritized freedom of religion and separation of church and state before even freedom of speech. That was the number one priority. And I got booed so hard for that. I tell you, it was really quite wild.
If the viewers
So you
of
felt
this,
that hate.
if the viewers of this haven't seen your speech at the McKinney City Council, they should look at it, because it's really good, and you made some excellent points. And they can hear the booing and then the silence when you factually shut them up. And I absolutely loved watching your talk, your 2 minutes in front of the McKinney City Council. I am very happy that the McKinney City Council did end up voting to allow the mosque to make its necessary additions. And I am very sad to see that the Islamophobia continues in Collin County and McKinney specifically, with the potential recall vote for those few city council people who did vote for the extensions for the mosque.
Yeah, actually, I can follow up on that. First of all, I was glad to also see that they approved the mosque that was the previous week, and it was unanimous too. It was unanimous, so good on them for that, despite all the hatred. I mean, like there was a few supporters. There was myself. There was Jeremy Sitka. There was our candidate for Congress, Evan Hunt. Our candidate for State House, Brittany Black, and only a few others. But everyone else just had horrible things to say. But despite that, the city council still unanimously voted in favor of it. Then after that, as Christy mentioned, there's some sort of push for a recall vote. They have to recall the city council members. They just had, what was it yesterday? They had their next city council, and apparently I wasn't there, but from what I've seen, it was actually a pretty nice conversation yesterday. People did come up to speak. The chair of the statewide of the Texas Democratic Party, he was actually there. I'm blanking on his name now. The Oh my gosh,
Kendall, Kendall.
Kendall Scudder was there, and he gave some kind words. And it seems that while there's this push for this recall petition, it seems like it's not gaining that much traction. They're not getting all of the signatures or whatever it is they need. And I think the reason for this is probably because a lot of the individuals who came to speak and say negative rhetoric in the previous week, a lot of them probably don't actually live in McKinney. Just like we saw in the
Right.
Frisco City Council, we saw people come in from all over who don't even live in Frisco. I say this very ironically as someone who does not actually live in Frisco myself. I live right next door. I live in the colony. But anyways, if you are trying to push for some sort of recall that requires signatures of actual residents, they're not getting the actual traction on that. So that's really good to see.
I'm gonna say this. This is one thing I love about Let's Talk About It, Steph, is that we can have a topic and wind up some kind of way. We wind up going right back to the first topic. A lot of it has to do with hate in America, and like I said, what is it doing for you? If they build a mosque, so what? Are you going to go to it? You don't even know what happens in a mosque, but you hate it because somebody else said something that probably wasn't even true and you believe it. Why don't you go attend one and see for yourself instead of going by what other people say? Because every time you listen to what somebody say and it goes to a third party, I guarantee you it's not what it was told. It changes, and then when it gets to the fourth person, it changes again. They're not telling you the whole thing. So I'm gonna tell you this, people of America, if you want to know what's going on in those places that you so much hate, go to it. Find out for yourself. Be quiet. Listen. So shut your mouth, be quiet, and listen, and then you'll find your answers. Because a lot of times when you go by what other people are saying, and I'm repeating myself, it's wrong. Find out for yourself. That's just like the Bible. Learn the Bible for yourself. Don't go by what the preacher is telling you. Read it for yourself so you would know. That's all I'm gonna say on that part. And we can go ahead and move on. Good job, Christy. Good job, Dell, on that subject. Because what would Jesus do? Maybe that's what we should have named this topic. What would Jesus do? But I do want to talk about this issue. Is two of them that we want to continue to make sure we shine a light on. Is Nolan Wells and Camilla Anthony. Nolan Wells' parents is still trying to seek the truth. And what's been going on these last couple of weeks is that the mom, Christina, she's been getting a lot of backlash behind her wanting to know what's going on, what happened to her son. And it's crazy, right? She's the victim, and they're trying to make her like she's the villain. And the ones that's supposed to have been this young kid's friends, and we all know about the boat incident. He may have been on the boat and he may not have been on the boat, but he left with his friends. And if you old school like I am and grew up in an age where your parents say if you go with somebody, you leave with them. When they leave, you leave. And everything's all good. I never could leave, go somewhere with a friend and just stay. Cause I know when I get home, I'm gonna be catching all kind of hell from my parents for not doing what they said. So I'm quite sure if with Nolan, I, it's just something about this case that just don't sits right because I feel like He was raised in a family. Mother and dad worked hard, and he know the rules. He knew that he had to go work out the week after. So why would he be drinking and smoking? Because that's a lot of the rumors that were out there. Why would he do that when he know that he has to go that Monday and get tested? Make it make sense. Nothing about this case makes sense, and I feel like the kids that was on that boat, they know what happened, and they just refuse to say something, whether it was an accident or whatever the case may be. Somebody need to tell the truth. So the mom can be at peace for what happened to her baby. That's all she wants to know. But they're dragging this out, including the coroner. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. I have questions. I'm like Nancy Gray. I want to find out what happened to Nolan. What happened to Nolan? If you know what happened to Nolan, please let the family know. I know people were taking pictures and recording stuff because it's 4th of July. Everybody got a phone. Everybody's waving a phone around, taking pictures and recording stuff. You may have evidence and don't even know it. Turn it into the proper authorities so the parents can be at peace. Now, Camilla Anthony, Dale, I'm going to let you take that one over.
Oh yeah, it's not too much to say. Just a quick update. Really glad to see. There was a bunch of people who were actually cheering in front of the courthouse. If that was not today, then it was later yesterday, on how he is going to get a new judge. So that's really good to see.
Right. Chrissy, you have anything to say about either one of those?
No, I was following the second one a little more closely than the first one. So, yeah, it was good. Thank you, Dale, for giving us that update on the fact that a new judge has been secured. Thanks.
Yeah, that's a plus. Okay, so we've talked about the Muslim in Frisco, McKinney area. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to this last one. I know, Christy. Christy. I'm finna skip over to Dale. But we're gonna talk about these voter centers, particularly over in Denton County. Now, right now, Tarrant County is having an issue with that old Tim O'Harrell over there that wants to shut down voting locations, drop it from 300 plus down to 100. I'm quite sure Alicia Simmons, they're going to be working that out to where that ain't going to happen because that is straight up voter suppression. And that is something that here in Denton County, we do not want. Here in Denton County, you can vote anywhere you want to during early voting. So you have 2 weeks where you can go vote. But on election day, you got to find out what precinct that you're supposed to go to. So whatever's on your voter registration card, sometimes it's the wrong number. You might have to go to a whole complete different place. So I'm going to go ahead and let Miss Christy Wood, because this is one of her favorite topics, I'm going to let her talk about this. Go ahead, Christy.
Oh my goodness, voting centers in Denton County. I'm part of a group called votingcentersnow.org. We have been trying, it's a bunch of election officials, like election judges, election workers, who are, quite frankly, tired of having to redirect voters on election day because of an antiquated law on the books saying that in Denton County, you can vote anywhere during early voting, but on election day, you must only vote at your precinct location. Now, we have a few problems with precinct locations. Number one, they can change at any time. It depends upon redistricting. It depends upon how many election workers we have available for this particular election. It depends upon how many locations the county decides to be able to fund. So, yeah, it changes from year to year. And voters are understandably frustrated because they have been bombarded with the information saying you can vote anywhere in your county for this election. Just show up and vote. Well, that is not true in Denton. If you show up on election day at the wrong polling location, you will have to be redirected by the election workers. It's not as if we make up these rules. The election workers don't make these rules. These rules are governed by the Denton County Commissioners Court and the two party chairs. And all of them have to be in agreement to change from our current system to what is in place in 87% of all the populace of Texas, which is you vote anywhere during elections, even on election day. You can vote anywhere in the county, and we'll be able to print you a ballot which is appropriate for your precinct. No problems. We have the technology. We do it for early voting. There's no reason in the world to continue using antiquated laws about precinct-based voting locations on election day. Now, we've been working very diligently for 2 years to gather statistics on how many people get redirected, and it's anywhere between 10 to 37% of everybody who shows up on election day has to be sent to some other location. Now, we don't know if those people actually make it to the other or not. So this is disenfranchising voters heavily. But I have the actual statistics from where I worked at the Civic Center on this. And my place was the one that reported 37% of everybody who showed up trying to vote, we had to send them somewhere else. So it's a huge problem, and it affects everybody, not just Democrats, not just Republicans, although it does tend to affect Republicans more than Democrats. So it would be in everybody's best interest if we just did away with this precinct-based voting and go to countywide voting centers. And we've been presenting this to the county commissioners for over a year. We have gotten private assurances from several of the commissioners, enough to form a coalition and vote on it. Yes, we definitely have the approval of the Democratic Party chair. We've got one lone holdout. It's the Republican Party chair for Denton County. She's holding the whole thing up. And I would like to see that change. So if you are a Republican in Denton County, a registered voter, please try calling your precinct chair or even call the Republican Party in Denton County. Tell them to change the mind of their party chair and get them to vote for voting centers. That's all we want. We want everybody to be able to vote easily, securely, and safely on election day.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And just to clarify, too, when we say election day, that's the last day to vote. That's the last day to vote. You can vote anywhere in the county, particularly in Denton County, during the early voting period, the 2 whole weeks of the early voting, but not on the last day to vote. On the last day to vote, we switch up the rules, unfortunately. And we're seeing lots of people getting redirected. And it's not just that it's the last day to vote. It's the fact that it's the highest voting turnout. Mm-hmm. If you look at the total number of people who vote throughout the entire 2-week early voting period, statistically, we've been seeing in the last several elections that we see almost an equal number of people vote in that one last day. Unfortunately, everyone seems to wait till the one last day to vote. Now, I don't know if that's because people are unaware that there's early voting, or maybe it's because when advertised, usually just the election day itself is advertised, which again is the last day to vote. But for whatever reason, we're seeing the highest voting turnout on the last day to vote, the one day where we switch up the rules, which is why it's so confusing, particularly in the Frisco area. After all, the city of Frisco is divided on the west side in Denton County, in the east side in Collin County, And we're seeing lots of people who accidentally jump over the county line. That's going to happen in any city that is divided between two counties, right? Mistakes happen. But the Collin County election workers don't necessarily always know the correct location for a Denton County resident to be redirected to because it's not their county. So in Frisco in particular, we are constantly seeing some people get redirected multiple times, like a Denton County resident who accidentally jumps over the highway, which is then in Collin County, gets redirected back into the county as they must, but then they get redirected a second time if they showed up to the wrong voting location. This is it adds to people's cynicism. It stresses out our election workers, and it's actually pretty costly too. And it costs some people their ability to vote. If someone gets told, "Hey, you need," if someone stands in line, by the way, lines can be long. If you get through that line and it's like 6:30, and you get told you need to go somewhere else at 6:30, knowing the polls close at 7, I mean, that person, we heard a story of one person who was in that situation. And she's mad, she's angry, she's going to get there. She's going to get to that other voting location. She rushes out at 6:30. And, the election worker there was sitting there thinking, oh, man, I hope she doesn't get into an accident. I hope she doesn't, hurt someone else on the road or run someone over if someone's left agitating like that and they're rushed. So it even kind of becomes a public safety issue.
Yes,
So,
we also see a number of voters who show up where, oh, this I've always voted here. I've always voted here. It's become a ritual. They always vote at their location. Well, their location may not be the same on election day as what they think, and then they get very mad and they get very angry at the election workers. And we have to maintain professionalism at all times and try to calm people down. And yet we have to uphold the law at all times. And the law states that we must say certain things in a certain way in order to try to de-escalate the anger. The anger at how dare you try to take away my right to vote is what the election workers are hearing. So there's a very simple fix to this. Let's have voting centers. And we've got one person holding it up. So I want to try to change that. And however, it needs to get changed. And right now, I'm pretty much not going to change that one person's mind, the Democratic chairperson's mind. I've already called her out by name at the Commissioners Court meeting. And
yeah, you mean the Republican chair's mind.
Yeah.
Republican chair's mind. Because certainly the Democratic chair's mind has been for this the whole time. So, yeah. And I'm not a Republican, so I can't go to her as a precinct chair and say, we want this.
I don't think she's going to listen because she seems to come across to one of those people, I'm right and you're wrong, and we're going to do it my way. And I hate to say it like this. This is when you know if someone has power at home or not. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm
And
gonna
I
act
know
like a tough guy.
I know she didn't like the fact that I called her out by name because the next day and the day following, my personal Facebook page got flooded with hateful messages directed against me and against all Democrats. But you know what I did? I took a careful look at all those little hateful messages to see just who these people were. Now, a good number of them were AI bots. We expect that. I expected this. Good grief. This is not my first rodeo. But I looked at everybody who was sending me hateful messages. Not a single Denton resident among them. They were all from out of town and even out of state.
I believe
So
it.
I think this little old, and I'm old, election worker from Denton County who has no power has gotten under their skin by calling out the elephant in the room, which is Voter suppression is happening because of the Republican Party in Denton County.
Yes, absolutely,
I
absolutely.
would love to play that, but I know you called out her name on there, and I'm quite sure Dell didn't have opportunity to edit that part out. So we're not gonna be able to. If you do run it, Dell, kind of blurt out her name so we won't get sued.
I don't think we're going to get sued. We do have our freedom of speech. I will say this: the Denton County Republican chair is very much set in her ways. I've been watching some old videos from the Denton County Commissioner's Court from way back in the day, and this is when the current chair wasn't the chair yet; she was just a precinct chair. And even back then, and when she was campaigning to become the chair of the Denton County Republican Party, her whole platform was to uh, have precinct voting even during the early voting period was one thing, and the second thing is if she had her way, she would get rid of the electronic voting tabulators
That's
and
right. She stated she would get rid of the machines too.
to have all ballots counted by hand, which is ridiculous for one that's insanely expensive because you have to employ a lot of people to do that. Secondly,
Exactly. Not to interrupt you, Dale. Do we even know? Has she ever worked as an election worker? Has she ever been a judge?
here's something that's very interesting. What she has done is been part of an audit process. This is something that Jane Scholes brought up. That she keeps on saying that, oh, there's all of this election fraud stuff going on. She's been saying all that on her campaign trail. But the reality is this: after every single election in Denton County, a lottery is done, and a random precinct is selected in Denton County, and then an audit is done. They do actually count the ballots by hand for that one selected precinct by the lottery, and they compare the count to what the electronic voting tabulators say. And she's been part of that audit. So she knows that there's no actual fraud going on here because she's been part of that process. Yet she campaigns on this anyways. It's something that was very interesting to see. Jane Scholes is the one who brought that up. I think she brought that up on this podcast, actually. But
Mhm.
it just goes to show that she knows what she's doing. I believe this is just her campaign strategy because a lot of the
You
Republicans have run on this rhetoric that Donald Trump says that, oh, all the elections are rigged, all the elections are rigged. But apparently, some of the Republicans missed the memo that that narrative was meant for blue states. And it's ironic to use that in a state where all the elected officials are Republicans right now. So if you're going to say that there is election fraud, then I say, well, interesting to say when the Republicans are the ones elected, right?
That means that we need to get a recount. So those numbers that you have are wrong. So that means you shouldn't be in your position. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
I'm not quite sure if we're ever going to be able to replace, change Melinda Preston's mind. I think she will need to be replaced, as Christy mentioned. And this has been a long, long struggle. I need to find this clip. I need to repost it. There was a clip before County Commissioner Kevin Faulconer of Precinct 2 was the county commissioner. His predecessor was a guy named Rob Marchant. And Rob Marchant was actually getting annoyed, and he kind of had like a little bit of a verbal scuffle, if you will, in the county commissioner's court. He literally said, like, why does this keep coming back up? Are we not doing a good job? He was angry because Republican precinct chairs were there demanding to have precinct voting during the early voting period and also to get rid of the electronic voting tabulators. There was multiple Republican precinct chairs. In the current Denton County Republican chair, who was just a precinct chair at the time. And so you could see, and this was years ago, right? I mean, Kevin Faulconer has been a county commissioner for nearly 4 years now. So this has been a long struggle that's been going on for a long time here in Denton County, Texas.
yeah, I can tell you as being a election clerk, election alternate judge, and being an election judge, how tedious it is and how stressful it is that you're trying to make sure that you do the right thing. And as a judge, you're trying to make sure that everybody have the right to go and vote. That's one of the biggest things, and you want to make sure that you're not making a mistake because once again, all eyes are watching you, right? So you, if your ballot machine is full, you're gonna get a text message about that because you're being monitored. If you have somebody waiting out there on a curb, they're gonna text or call the judge and let the judge, hey, you have somebody out there, you know. So with them lying and saying that we have voter fraud here, that's a lie. Like I said earlier today, which I keep saying, some of these topics just blend right back to the first thing. Don't believe everything that you hear. Do the research on your own. Don't go by what this chair says, what that chair says. Go find the information for yourself. So that way you are weaponized with the right information instead of going by what he or she says. Because I've been an election judge for a very long time. Before I started running for office, I was a precinct chair and also an election judge. And I'm telling y'all, here in Denton County, there is no, hear me out, there is no election fraud going on whatsoever. Frank runs a tight ship. When I tell you he runs a tight ship, he runs a tight ship. Ain't no such thing as no thing, regardless of what, if you're Republican or a Democrat, he's fair and he's honest. And with the county chair saying the stuff that she's saying is wrong. We got to stand up, folks, regardless of who you are, because when you go vote, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, because when you come into that center and you bring out your card or your ID and we have to tell you, hey, you're at the wrong place, don't get mad at us. Get mad at the person that's in charge of taking care of making sure that your voting location is the right one, because sometimes they change it up at the last minute. They can change it up within 48 hours. They can. And they have done it. So if you're a Republican, you need to be talking to your chair and put some pressure on her to change her mind. Because at the end of the day, gas is high. Don't nobody have gas money to be driving all the way from $1.2 to $1.3. We want to make sure that everybody have access to go and do their civic duty and have access to have voting centers throughout Denton County, because we definitely don't want to be like Dallas County where they pull countywide voting and then, oh, you know what, it was such a mess, we're just going to bring it back. And then we don't want to be like Tarrant County, and these are our neighbors, and they struggle when it comes to these bad commissioner judges that are put in place that do think that they're doing the right thing and they're actually trying to harm people. So they're doing voter suppression. I'm just gonna call it like it is. It's just straight up voter suppression in 2026. So write to your county chair, make your complaint. Or better yet, why don't you just show up at the county commissioner and show support of voting centers everywhere? They open it up at 9 o'clock. If you
on
want to
on
speak up
Tuesdays.
on Tuesday, and make sure you register the day before to go and speak if you're for countywide voting, because we're all being affected. And it's always just like, oh, it's a Democrat problem. No, it's not. It's a Republican problem too. It's the independents and those that's in between. It's all our problem. So we need to fix it. And by fixing it is to allow people to have the right to go vote anywhere they want to in their county. It don't cost that much at all. Any last minute things y'all want to say?
I'd like to just end a little bit with, yeah, we're talking about the hate in America and all that kind of stuff, but just remember, we're in this for the long haul. We've got, it's a marathon now. We're in the midst of the marathon. So catch your wind, get some more energy, make sure you sleep well, make sure you're eating well, make sure you find some joy as well.
Aww.
Absolutely. I will also say too, and to all those who have listened, please vote, and please vote early, because we're still not going to have voting centers when November comes. I doubt it, at least.
No, we
I would
won't.
be very surprised if the county commissioners would change their mind. It might actually be too late for them to change their mind. I'm not quite sure about that. So maybe I should do my research before I say that. But vote early because it's way easier. Vote early because you're less apt to even have a line at all. Vote early because you won't get caught up in the system. So vote early, and please make sure that you do vote. Do not tell yourself that it's not worth it. Do not tell yourself that we live in a deep red state. We don't live in a deep red state. We live in a non-voting state where only half of the population is even registered to vote, and of those, only half of those even show up to the voting booth. And by the way, that's the presidential elections. It's even worse in the midterm elections. So the lesser of the turnout there is, the more of a difference your vote matters. So never tell yourself your vote does not matter. It absolutely does. With that said, Stephanie, back to you, and thank you for really good conversations.
Oh, thank y'all so much. I really appreciate both of y'all coming on here and talking about what matters most, the people. It's so important. And like, I'm going to echo on what Dale was saying, that don't let somebody tell you that your vote doesn't matter, and don't feel like your vote doesn't matter, because it does. And I know that there's a lot of young people out there that's thinking that, well, they're not going to listen to me. They do. When you vote, they have to listen to you. And if you're looking for a candidate, look for somebody that's going to be open, honest with you, and basically who has your best interests at heart. Now, we know we got a lot of bad people out there, but we got a lot of good people this go around that is trying to do the right thing for the people and standing up and fighting for the people. So get out there and go vote. Your vote matters, young people. One of the reasons why I'm running for office is because I'm thinking of your future, because somebody thought about my future and they got up and they fought to make sure that I had the right to vote. They got up and they fought to make sure that I had the right to say what I can and cannot do with my body. Now we don't have that. We got to fight for our democracy. We got to fight for the young people so that you will be able to make a better future. And we can't do that unless you get out there and go vote. So help us out by going to go vote, because we're voting for you, not for me. It's a wrap for us, but it's not for you. So we're fighting for your future, because your future matters. Help us out and go support one of your local candidates. Now, of course, if you want to go support me, I love that. I'm running for Denton County Commissioner Precinct 4, and I would love to have you to volunteer and also donate to my campaign. You can go to draperfortexas.com, and Dale is actually running too. He's running for Denton County Clerk. So we got some great people that are running for office, but we need your support, whether you are volunteering to block walk or do phone calls. I know nobody wants to go out there and block walk in this 150-degree weather, but you can make some phone calls and do postcard for us as well. So whatever you can do, please help us out. Now, remember, in order for us to spread the lovely words of Let's Talk About It stuff, you have got to go like, share, and tell everybody that we come on Wednesday. Every now and then we might have to take a break, but come on, join us. And if you want to be a guest, reach out to us. Look for Stephanie Draper on Facebook or call Dale Frey. And you know what? You can even reach out to Christian and say, hey, I want to be on the show. What do I need to do? We're going to get you plugged in so where you can come in. Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. on Let's Talk About It stuff. And of course, my co-host, he's not here on, what is it, the third, what day is it, Dale?
First Wednesday of the month, yeah.
Yeah, that's when he kicks me to the curb. So if you want to come on here and be a guest, come on. But thank y'all, and I appreciate y'all subscribing because y'all, we have made it up to 105 subscribers. We want to keep the momentum up. I want before 2026, I would love for us to have at least 500 subscribers. So keep watching, keep liking, keep sharing. Y'all be blessed. Let's have a happy week. Finish this week out strong and make sure you hydrate because it's hot out there, y'all. All right, we're signing out. Y'all have a good one. Love y'all. Peace.